Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to have you here today. I'm Sasha from Sexpert Talks, and today I'm interviewing this beautiful, amazing woman that I really admire so much, Iryna Sulim. She's a sex, love, and relationships coach with a specialty on males' sexuality. Welcome, Iryna.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. I'm so happy to have her here because she's you might find her in the links below in her social media and her webpage, and you will see the beautiful work that she's doing to bring men into a more conscious and aware sexuality. So we were just speaking about the wide range of issues that she works with when she works with men, and I am really curious about what is it that men are craving when they look for you to work with you in their sexuality?
Yeah, great question. The majority of men I work with who come to me, the main issue, the main problem when we strip down to it is sexual confidence and sexual potency. And a lot of them, lose that ability when they are in a long-term relationship with their partners, or if they're single, they're not really sure. And a lot of times men are so focused on their performance, which is so driven by the toxicity of the pornography. This is where the education for men comes from, that every time it needs to be hard and it needs to be erect and always ready. And so when it's not the case, the man is just like alarmed, and he doesn't really know how to go about this. And all these failure messages start to creep into his head. And so when they come to me, they kind of like that's the main goal, to have sexual confidence, be sexually attractive to women, and and have a fulfilling intimacy. That's another one, because men are like, their sexuality is as complex as, for us women. It just, in our society, we don't really tend to think this way. We think it's very straightforward and linear, but it's really not. Men are just not given the language how to express themselves through the intimacy, right? So for men, sexual intercourse, intimacy is just the most emotional and the most, intimately connected time with a woman. And they just sometimes don't know how to really navigate those emotions, because men are not trained. A lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men, the majority maybe, are not really trained how to be comfortable with their emotions.
That is so important.
Yeah,
so important. I love that you mentioned that, because first of all, this idea that men are just like naturally wired for sex and they are not emotionally, they lack emotional depth, is so as harmful as it is for women as it is for men, right? Like, it keeps limiting them. So I hear also how you're speaking about the damage that pornography does on their expectations of sexuality. And I was just reading recently about a client, a testimonial from a client that was working with you with his porn addiction. So could you tell us a little bit more about how the porn industry and expectations that it places on men affects their relationship to sexuality?
Yeah, sure. Pornography is such a huge energy drainer from men and from women as well, but for men particularly. It's just has how society wants men to be. Society wants men to be energyless, you know, like have nothing. And also it's addictive, right? And then once a man comes into intimate time with his woman, there's a certain way of him performing. That's what he saw in this image, in this pornography, right? So it's a really hard thrusting, it's a really you know, skewed way of relating to intimacy, changing positions, doing all kinds of kinks, and maybe like using some kind of toys. All of it, he thinks, might enhance, you know, the more openness. So and then the other thing is, when a man masturbates to pornography, he wires his brain to always connect to that particular fantasy, which is also when he goes to intimacy, it tends to show up over and over there. And that's like a very sad situation. Or he might masturbate so much that he desensitizes himself to the point where he is not feeling inside of his so he needs to thrust real hard, and if he's not thrusting too hard, he gets flaccid. So these are all the terrible things that can happen to a man, and then he is not even aware that the most terrifying thing, that he might not even be aware of that. And then he's like, okay, why am I experiencing erectile dysfunction? So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, take Cialis, take Viagra, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's
Wow.
That's it.
I think that is so important to address, because it's such a anxiety issue, an anxiety fuel for men to not be as constantly energized and perform as these actors in these movies that are really like expect. I was the other day listening to a porn actress saying, hey, wanting to perform the same way that we do in the movies is like wanting people to act like superheroes. Like that's unreal. That's just fantasy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's it's so bad for men. So every time when I work with a client, with a male client, and I tell them, I have a 3 months program that I work with them on, I tell them no pornography at all, no masturbation to pornography at all, because I offer them conscious self-pleasure practices to do, holistic self-pleasure practices to do. So if you have an urge, I say to them to masturbate, do that. Do my self-pleasure practice instead. Connect to your body. Don't connect to that fantasy you've been connecting for all these years. Yeah.
I think that is so important. And then you're speaking about intimacy, how that affects their intimacy with their partners. So, and how they are not trained to connect to their own emotions. Just yesterday, I was looking at an article speaking about men cuddling, like a new therapy, men cuddling groups. And some men were terrified, like, no, we are men, we don't connect like that, we don't need that. So I would really like to explore that with you. What do you feel, and what do you think about this need for connection that men have but they don't acknowledge, this emotional depth that men have but they don't explore? What have you discovered when you have gone into the depths of the heart of men?
Yeah, it is a huge issue, because for generations and generations and years and years and years, and men were taught that it's not good to cry, it's not good to be angry. It's like men like need to be strong and powerful, masculine, and not portray any kind of like emotion. Emotions are for women. And so that like obviously influenced so many men in our society. Not all, because everybody's different. Again, like some men are more emotional than others, and that issue actually of not being able to connect to the emotions influences how it portrays in the intimacy, in the sexual dynamic, because emotions and sexuality are highly, highly connected, right? It's our second chakra kind of like distinctions, right? Emotionality, sexuality, creation, creativity, all of it. So men are not able to go there and not able to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is a portal, is a gateway to a really good open sex. So they want to have this open sex, but they can't get there because they can't be truly vulnerable with their partners. They can't be truly like expressing their fears and emotions, and so they're stuck. Everybody's stuck in this. So yeah, that's something that I've seen a lot with men. And then they run away, they avoid, and they don't want to face any of that. And if the emotions start to flood, I've had some clients that like who have experienced a lot of anxieties just overall.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is when a man experiences anxiety, he is overwhelmed with a certain emotional situation, and he goes and he masturbates that off, right? Like he's like, oh, I don't want to feel it, I don't want to feel it. So he might do that 2-3 times even a day, you know. Or another thing is he might retrieve to numb solutions like alcohol, drugs, again, pornography, or anything that would numb him out and not allow him to feel all of that.
Yeah, I have heard, I have had clients coming to me mentioning just that, like, hey, I'm masturbating 3-4 times a day. Is that normal? Is that okay? And it's so related to porn addiction. Like, I watch porn every day and I cannot connect to my partner anymore. When I want to have sex with her, I don't even get a hard on. I masturbate on my own 3 times a day. Is that normal? Is that okay? And that's the constant question. Is that normal? Is that normal? Is that normal?
No, it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not. It's not normal. And I have clients who come to me and they do the same thing, and they ask me, like, what's the normal? I was like, dude, you got to listen to your body. I can't tell you what's normal, what's not, how many times to ejaculate. Like, you got to connect to your body. Maybe if, like, what I advise men, first and foremost, if they've been going on like 3-4 times a day, and that obviously depletes a man of his energy. And once you start doing this, your body would want it to do it more and more and more and more, right? So I would tell them, withdraw for a month, or not masturbate, not ejaculate, sustain this period, have like a diet, so to speak, right? Recalibrate your system, and then based on your the amount of sleep you have, the food you eat, the work you have, the sleep you have, all these variables need to be plugged in. You decide when to ejaculate and when not to. Maybe that's twice a week, maybe that's once a week, maybe that's once a month. It also depends on the age for each and every man. The younger the man, the more he can get away with ejaculation. The older the man, the less he needs to actually deplete himself of this energy.
Yeah. But I also love that you mentioned that they do that to avoid emotions, right? Like this. I have seen that, for example, with people that have a level of PTSD, like the and a lot of testosterone. Their go-to, the safe haven is porn, or their safe haven is masturbation, but without connection, without any emotion, just as a way of getting it off. And that term itself, like get it off, not like being connected or going in. It's like if sex was something they used to get off their head and off their emotions and just off.
Yeah, that's what happens a lot of times. There is intimacy with a woman, and he just like does this habitual thing of getting himself off like he used to do on his own. And there is in no way satisfying for nobody. I mean, for her, she would feel left out. She would feel totally like there's so much disconnection. What kind of sex is that? Yeah, no wonder women get angry and frustrated and never satisfied, because men are not aware what they're doing.
Yeah, it's
Not
like
all men, but a lot of them.
There's a feeling of being used as a masturbation toy, right? Like instead of being connected and being present. In the moment.
True. Yeah.
So what could you before I ask you this, I'm just like feeling how some people might react. But my porn, don't take it away from me. But what could you recommend men to do in order to connect deeper to their emotions and to themselves, to be more present, to have a more holistic sexual experience?
Yeah. The good old method is meditation.
Yeah.
Really developing awareness is so key. Now, sitting for 5 to 10 minutes in just quiet, calm, peaceful space, connecting to your breath, scanning your body for whatever sensations that are arising is the best way to start. Start very small and then come to, something more profound, such as breath work, such as like connecting more to your genitals, self-pleasuring in a way where there is moment when a man is connecting to his pleasure moment to moment, not driving himself to orgasms right away. Like these are the things that you start with, but very simple for someone who haven't done anything at all, connecting in the meditation. Yeah,
it's so important and so interesting. Like, how can you what a great motivation to meditate, to improve your sexual life, to improve your connection to your partner. It's not some new age thing. It's about really connecting to yourself.
Yeah, it's all about that. It's like developing self-awareness. That's the number one key for you to connect to yourself, to connect to the emotions, and then eventually to connect to the partner. And of course, that's not where it ends, but having a good guide, a good coach is always helpful. So come to me. I would say that.
Absolutely. And I am going to be writing down Iryna's information in the description of this interview so that you can contact her. That is so important. She also has some free content and videos on her Instagram and on her Facebook page, but it's a web page as well. But it's important that you look for help if you are feeling like there is something off. Yeah. Now, I'm curious. So we know men don't really have a guide of what normal sexuality is like. That's why they keep asking, is it normal? What good healthy sexual intimacy would look like. Maybe they have never heard that. Maybe they don't know it. All they have seen is porn. What
Yeah.
would it look like to have a healthy sexual connection?
Yeah, that's a great question. What it would look like? Well, definitely none of the things that you think, like swingers parties, or toys, or any fetish or kinky stuff. None of it is going to give a couple a healthy connection. What I feel is, would provide that is actually two people to connect in the open and honest, vulnerable conversation, to really clear everything that's been there tensing up their body, right? And the best practice, and this practice, is fears, desires, and loves that a man and a woman would share together. And just like hold each other in that space. Do maybe 5 minutes of eye gazing, or connect to each other through touch, massaging each other. And just do that, not rushing into any kind of crazy sexual experiences. Just move with slowly, using your awareness, using your breath, using just whatever it is that you have naturally, organically in you, right? And then focus. It's a mindset shift, right? Focus on the intimacy part. Focus on connecting to your partner, feeling yourself 50% of the time, and 50% of the time connecting to your partner. That is something that would slowly, gradually shift into beautiful, love-making, connected experience, instead of that just performance-based thing.
I love that. And there is something that I think is so important to distinguish, right? When men tell you, but I connect to my partner because I make her come, and I make her come like 10 times, but it's not about making her get anywhere. It's about connecting to what's going on inside of her, not to taking her somewhere, right?
Yeah. It's moment to moment, kind of like assessing the energy, assessing the situation, moving and playing with it. That's the good thing that I always tell to my clients, like play like your kids, explore, play, be have fun about what's happening. Don't get stuck up on having the penis be hard all the time and having multiple orgasms. They will come eventually. Just restore that beautiful, playful connection with each other.
I love that. So we are taking sexuality from being goal-oriented and go, and always hard and kinky, and I have to bring in more toys and more adrenaline, into being slower, more connected, and more playful, and more present. So that is a sexuality that can be nurturing for both the man and the partner that he's with.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And that reverence that two of them have for each other is like this. It's just it opens up so many doors. It's a totally different paradigm of looking at how sexual experiences can go.
Yeah, I can see that as you describe that, because even the energy of the conversation changes, right? Like when we're speaking about these expectations that they have, there's tension. And when we're speaking about this slowing down, connection, vulnerability, exploration, deepening, there is this ease and relaxation, and that brings deeper communion, deeper openness.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that is what can enrich a couple to go deeper and go on in life, right? That feels rich.
And it can be so healing, because sex is actually very healing if it's done in this holistic kind of like container. A woman can soften and surrender and just go further and further and deeper, because she feels safe around the man who can hold this for her, who isn't driving her nowhere, and he doesn't have his own agenda, and is not concerned about his performance all the time, but he's just fully present to her. And that's beautiful. That's the kind of sex that I always want to have. Yeah.
Yes. And I would like to add something to it. Like, people speak so much about this masculine being dominant and the feminine wanting to surrender, and that caused me trouble. But when you put it this way, it's easier to ease into that, because it's not about dominance, but it's about trust. And it's about letting go of this idea of having to be dominating and showing up and just being present.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about the people that you have worked with. What do they tell you at the end of their process? What happens when a man transitions from that place where he started with that tension into the end of your program?
Yeah, so they report to me that there's more presence to their body, there's more safety in their body, there's more tools that they have to navigate when anxiety shows up, because it's going to show up, and so they can come back to always connecting to, you know, their core, their grounded, centered self. There is much more ease and freedom in how they can be, and there's no more, because the mindset, you know, we shifted it, we, you know, changed it, the narrative. There's no more this tension and constraining about how to perform. There's like ease. Okay, so if I'm not hard, it's okay, that's how it happens right now, but it's going to get hard again. So there's more ease and freedom about it, and everybody's super relaxed and can really slow into the process. So that's what they report to me. The intimacy becomes much more fulfilling, and even with that, their whole life, other aspects of their lives start to shift and change and transform. Like, the career opportunities start to come, the business grows, money shows up. There's so much goodness that men see when the intimacy foundation restores to the level of being nurturing, to the level of being fulfilling, to the level of being loving, connected, present, all of it.
I love that. And I love that you just mentioned how it affects other areas of their lives, how it affects also their abundance, their work, their thriving in different layers of life. So sexuality and intimacy are the foundation of everything else.
I am deeply convinced that this is what it is. I truly fully believe that that's where we build foundation there, and then all other aspects of our life is infused with that energy.
Oh, yeah. I love that. So it's an invitation for people to work on their sexual energy and sexual connection and sexual awareness, if not for the sexuality, for everything else in their lives, because it's going to shift naturally. It just starts moving like a domino effect.
True. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Iryna. We have taken so much from this conversation. It has been so nurturing and so deep, and I really hope that it reaches many, many people out there, because it's important that people listens to this and starts creating this shift.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sasha. I really loved it. Really loved your questions. I really appreciate you having me here. Yeah, it's amazing what we're doing.
Such a pleasure. And please, guys, don't forget to check out the information in the description, because there is a lot more that you can dig in when it comes to your sexuality. Just there to dive deep into that.
Beautiful.
Thank you.